time again, right? Kick out the old, welcome the new. Make your New Year's resolutions now. Go!
Hey everybody, and Happy New Year, one and all. We're back for another AFTN Soccer Show. There's still time, the first one of 2021. I'm Michael McCall.
I'm Stephen Pander.
And I'm Zachary Adam Eisenhower.
2020 is in the history books. I'm sure we're all gutted that the year has finished. Is that the phrase? Oh no, I'm sure we're all glad the year is finished. That's what I was going for there. To be honest, it wasn't much different for me. I don't go out much. I just got to do longer interviews, which obviously was right up my street. So apart from not really getting to many football matches, it wasn't a huge difference for me. I worked out though, like taking aside things like VMSL and amateur games and stuff like that, I only attended 4 professional football matches in 2020, but that was in 3 different countries, 2 in Scotland, 1 in England, and the Whitecaps home opener. So that wasn't too bad. I guess you guys were probably just at 1 professional game.
No, I don't think Zach was there for the home opener, was he?
Yeah, I just don't consider it professional, so.
Oh.
No, were you there for the opener?
I think I was, because it was the first.
Were you? I thought that's the one you missed the first game.
No, it was the first day in the unified GA, so I just went there to support the cause.
Oh, that's right, you were there.
Yeah, what a success that was. They closed the stadium down after that. Never happened again. The Whitecaps told you so. They said it wasn't going to work, and there we go. But I mean, it's been a weird year. This is going to be our end of year / Happy New Year special. We're going to delve into the Whitecaps, MLS, Canadian Premier League, international football, just over the next couple of parts. We're not going to do our usual kind of end of season review of month by month, because I don't want to really be going, April, sat at home, did nothing with a mask on. May, sat at home, did nothing with a mask on. That could continue a long way into this year as well. We'll have to see how all that goes. But before we get into all that, did you guys have a nice Christmas?
Yeah, it was pleasant. Obviously a little bit different, a more virtual Christmas than in-person Christmas. But other than that, it was fine.
Yeah, it was, just like Steve said, it was nice, the 4 of us in our home hanging out. We Zoomed with Abbotsford, we Zoomed with Chilliwack, we Zoomed with Ontario. It was nice.
Did you listen to the AFTN Christmas special?
I did. It took me a while.
I listened to it. I listened to it as I fell asleep at night on Christmas Eve.
Every night.
Yeah. That's what our Christmas specials are all about. It's been quite bizarre, our Christmas special, because if you didn't hear it, we had Mr. Digestive, David Barnett, on from the New Royal Family, talking about his Anyone Fancy a Chocolate Digestive song. We also featured a shortened version of the interview on my East Fife show. I say shortened, it was still 36 minutes long. Bizarrely, although possibly because journalists are just wanting to talk about anything that isn't actually COVID just now, two newspapers in Scotland did a big feature on our Christmas specials and our whole chocolate digestive section. So the Courier, daily newspaper for Fife, Dundee and North East Scotland, they did a piece on it. And then the Dundee Evening Telegraph did a piece on it as well. Their piece was particularly good because they said that this podcast, it said, Football Mad Michael does a podcast in Canada called The Vancouver Whitecaps. So obviously they did their research for that, but it's obviously our digestive section is now taking over the world. And I just think this could be the year we finally get that sponsorship deal from McVitie's. Did either of you guys get any football-related Christmas gifts?
No.
No, because I haven't gotten yours yet. I haven't got the receipt.
Yeah, well, I have a little story to tell you about that.
Is this the one you posted on Twitter?
No.
Oh, okay.
So I talked in the last show that I had got you some gifts from China, and I got myself the same gift. Well, the money has now been refunded to my PayPal account because the website was fraudulent.
Oh.
Thankfully, I did not pay by credit card. They were offering you a discount if you paid by credit card, and I thought that sounds suspicious to me. And I was
especially usually there's a surcharge when you pay by credit card.
So now that gift that I really wanted us to get because I'd planned on us using it over the course of 2021 in these Zoom calls, I now have to try and find elsewhere.
Oh, so you're still going to try to get the same thing?
Well, yeah. Failing that, or we'll be doing it in 2022. I do have another possible gift lined up for the two of you if that doesn't work out. I really should just start buying gifts in this country for you and not buy you soccer gifts anyway.
Well, I do have a soccer gift that will come to each of you. It's the same gift as well, and it kind of coincides with an anniversary. So it's kind of a little bit special there. So we'll see what that is.
Yeah.
In the coming weeks.
Whitecaps related anniversary?
I never said that. I just said an anniversary.
That's why I'm asking.
I said an anniversary. Let's leave it at that.
Okay, interesting.
This is not a Lego. This is not a Lego thing where you can feel it up and figure out what the gift is.
Hey,
I'll tell you.
That's what I do with gifts. Michael, how long have we been doing the show? Is it 5 years?
Well, I don't know because Steve and me did the first one in 2013.
Oh.
I don't know when we brought you into the fold. I think it was before we went on to CITR. We've been doing CITR since February 2017.
Yeah, 3 years.
Yeah, so we're coming up for year 4.
Steve is the kind of guy who would celebrate 3 years.
Any anniversary is worth celebrating. I'm a very romantic kind of guy. Anyway, enough of our waffle. Let's get into the meat and bones, the meat and potatoes of the show. We're going to delve in, first of all, with a look back at the Whitecaps 2020. A season that didn't hit the dizzy heights that maybe many hoped. It was a season in 3 parts. Obviously, we've talked about a lot of this over the course of the year, so we're going to touch on some things that we've already talked about, but we're going to keep these sections all relatively short. I mean, my overlasting thought in the season, like if you're going to sum the Whitecaps up in 1 to 3 words, Steve, how would you sum up 2020?
Oh boy, yeah, that's it right there. Oh boy, I'll just leave it at that.
I'm going to go with disappointing, disjointed. I might just leave it at those two, really.
If you put and, you could do it. You could do.
Oh, that would be a 3 words.
Yeah,
Isn't that what you said last year?
Yeah, I'm just like, this is actually the 2019 end of season show that we're just replaying.
Yeah, I mean, obviously,
to add it to one of your D words, disillusional, I think is a good word to use.
Yeah.
Before we talk about the 3 words, I think obviously it's the whole year is wacky, right? Like the whole year.
Yeah.
So it's hard to obviously I don't think it was a good year for the Vancouver Whitecaps in any way, shape, or form. I know there are some who we've talked to who are see it with encouraging signs within it and stuff. I don't tend to share that perspective, but I mean, yeah, it's all shaded by what's going on in the world, right? So
Well, yeah, and it's hard really to try and do a kind of upbeat end of season show when 2020 just all round, football
yeah,
aside, was just a terrible year for so many people. So many people lost jobs, so many people lost loved ones, and there's a light at the end of the tunnel, but the tunnel still seems quite a long tunnel before we get back to any normality. We were talking on our East Fife show this morning. We don't expect fans to get back watching East Fife games for the rest of the season, which takes you up to about the summer.
wait, people
So,
go to East Fife games after you left?
yeah. Today, there was a
My
couple of folk watched the game by sitting on the perimeter wall.
my greatest fear is that, you're saying there's a light at the end of the tunnel. My greatest fear is that light is like a train.
Yeah, there's a Half Man, Half Biscuit song. The light at the end of the tunnel is an oncoming train. That's what it kind of feels like. But I mean,
Yeah.
the vaccine does give a lot of hope to many.
Bring it back to Can I bring it back to the three words? Sorry,
Yeah.
before we get too far away from that, I would agree with you. Disappointing is one of my three words. Another is unambitious. I think describes the Whitecaps, and the third would be, I guess, scandalous. And I mean, there's a few things that are not so much from this year, but
Yeah.
thinking about. I mean, there's obviously a number of things you think about, but the first thing I was thinking about was on the sporting side, and was the Mark Panis situation.
Yeah. I mean, that.
I would also add the word typical.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking par for the course. So yeah,
Yeah.
typical is good.
I mean, when I was doing my end of year awards thing, and I was reading an issue of When Saturday Comes as well, and there was an interesting article in it about the phrase that's used a lot: long-suffering fans. And it's become a cliche in football. You talk about long-suffering fans, and it's like, how would you define long-suffering fans? And they're saying the real long-suffering fans are teams that have gone multiple years without winning anything. So, like in England or Scotland, they haven't even won promotion, never mind cups or league titles or anything like that. And there's some teams that have gone like 29, 30 odd years where they've not won promotion, they've not won a championship, they've not won a cup. That's long-suffering fans. Would you describe the Whitecaps as long-suffering fans? I mean, we're 10 seasons now in MLS. In that 10 seasons, taking the Cascadia Cup out of it, because it's not a proper trophy, if you're being honest, and that it's not.
Previously, when I kind of agree with you because it was a 3-team tournament before. It is getting to that part where it is getting more legitimate.
The Cascadia Cup?
Are you? I thought you said the Voyagers Cup.
Oh,
Sorry,
no.
I misheard you.
No, the Cascadia Cup. All we've got to show of an actual competitive trophy, one that means something properly, not just like a participation thing for being the best team in a 3-horse race. We've got one Voyagers Cup for 10 years in MLS. Does that make us long-suffering? Or we've had some success, we've made playoffs. Is it as bad as it feels 10 years down the road?
It's hard to say. The way I classify long suffering is supporting a team that has no ambition, or shows a lack of ambition, or shows a lack of getting to the next step. When, especially in this kind of environment, North American environment, there is opportunity for that because it's supposedly a level playing field for most of the teams. So there is an opportunity there. But yeah, it's just not about winning trophies. It's showing that you're trying to get better. I rather support a team that's trying to get better than one that's just wins a trophy and then goes away for like years.
Yeah, Michael, I hear what you're saying. I hold the Cascadia Cup in a higher regard than you do. I don't, even though, yeah, it is a competition between 3 teams, and it is, it was birthed from the passion of the supporters. I still think it's a significant thing that the club needs to value more than it does, and they could do that in a number of ways, which they have chosen not to. And
I mean, I do value it. I do appreciate it.
No,
but
I know you do.
I'm coming from it. It's not an actual. It doesn't get you anything. As in, it doesn't qualify to the Champions League, or it doesn't get you
Here's
to
the
a
thing,
playoff.
Michael, if there was a trophy between East 5 Cowdenbeath and some other Scottish team in the whatever third or
There
fourth
is. It's
division.
called the Fife Cup. It's all the 4-5 teams.
Okay, there you go. Is that not important to you?
No one gives a toss about it.
Oh, okay. Well, in Pacific Northwest, things are a little bit different.
But teams actually play cup games in that competition, and they usually put in their B team or their kids.
Yeah. And we do things the North American way, which, yeah.
Yeah. But if you look at 2011 and where the team was at the end of that first season, and you look now going into 2021, we've got 10 seasons under our belt in MLS. If you classed 2011 as a 0, how far above 0 are we as a club 10 years down the line?
2.
-1 or -2?
No, you can't say
We've not
-1 or
gone
-2.
backwards. We've got a training centre now. We've got
True.
we've made the playoffs a couple of times. Well,
But making
a few times.
that's where I would disagree with you. Making the playoffs is not an achievement, in my opinion. I'm sorry.
I agree with that. Like in this kind of league, no, it's not an achievement.
It's the North American way, Zach.
This is just a mode to get to the cup. It's not actually the cup.
Michael, I agree with you. In some North American sports, it is considered an achievement, but it also has something that goes with it, right? Like you in the baseball, like you get pennants or whatever when you win your division and make the playoffs and whatever. That's not how it is in football.
It's by the media and the fans or supporters or whatever it's saying. It's not considered achievement in any sport. Just making the playoffs. It's about winning the final trophy. The organizations, they might spin it into making, we made the playoffs 20 years in a row or something like that. They might spin it, but not anybody else. I can attest that to you.
I mean, this wasn't something that I'd even put down that we were going to talk about, but it just kind of came to me as we were chatting there. And it's like, I don't think Steve's too off the mark by saying 2. I would maybe think a 3, which is kind of crazy all these years in as to where the team is and where you'd expect a team to be 10 years down the road in a league. When you look at Portland, Seattle's got more years than us, but I mean, Portland's the good one to look at. We came in at the same time. Montreal came in the year after us. It's like, I mean, where are they? Our big achievements in 10 years in MLS is we've got a state-of-the-art training centre that really is one of the best in North America, and it's right up there in the world. Players that come to it talk so highly about it. We sold on Alphonso Davies for a big lot of money. I'm not wanting to say we developed Alphonso Davies, but we helped in his development, and then we sold him on for a big lot of money. That is pretty much 10 years. That's it. 2 things to show for it.
Yeah, you can't even do a flash 5 or anything like that.
No. Yeah,
that was good, Steve.
It's quite damning and disheartening, really, which is so many things out of the Whitecaps over the 10 years. Hadn't really planned for this to be so much doom and gloom.
Okay, let's spin it back.
Yeah. Let's look at some positives to come out of 2020. And when I was doing the end of season awards, I came up with 2, which Michael Baldissimo, Thomas Hasal. To me, that's the only 2 things that you can take from 2020 that was a positive from a Whitecaps perspective. And even looking at that, both of them only really got their opportunity because of situations. In a normal season, Thomas Hasal would not have been anywhere near getting games. Baldy might have got a couple, and then he might have seized that moment and got a run in the team. That we don't know, but I think you're probably thinking it's maybe unlikely that he would have, based on like previous history of homegrowns in Vancouver. So again, that's a kind of crazy thing to think about. Your 2 highlights of the season. If you'd sat here a year ago and you said, what do you think the Or what players do you think, even before first kick, what players do you think are going to be the standout ones that you're going to be talking about at the end of the season? You wouldn't have picked those two.
No, and the thing is the only player I would even have put on that like have a chance to stand out was Cavallini. I honestly didn't have anybody else. Everybody else looked like a workman-like type player that was just. I thought maybe Dahomey had a chance to shine. I didn't know too much about him. Obviously, Adnan would have his moments, but other than that, I really had nobody else on that list. In bomb, you hoped to it, but I think pre to the season starting, I had him being sold in the summer, which he was. So I didn't see him finishing the year here at all.
Yeah.
So really, those are the only players I really had even on the radar, and I didn't expect that much from them either.
It's a strange one, Zach. Just for a strange year, really. I mean, you look at who the Whitecaps brought in this year. Homegrowns, they signed Fashionere, Pisil, Metcalf, and Bomer. So out of those four guys, Metcalf got some playing time, looked okay. They all need more development.
Did he get more than 180 minutes? Like more than 2 full games?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I'll double check that just now as we're talking, but I'm pretty sure he didn't. But he got a little bit of playing time, which was great. Baldy was obviously the big homegrown success story, and Thomas Assal as well. I mean, Baldy is the guy that you're hoping is now going to push on and just take that development further. But to do that, he obviously is going to have to play, and you just hope he's not going to get pushed down the pecking order by whoever does come in now.
And the thing is, nobody needs him to be a star. I think next year, hopefully that he plays majority of the games, like maybe 80% of the playing time. That's what I'm hoping for. I'm not expecting it, but that's essentially what I'm hoping for him.
Metcalf got 200 minutes. He made 7 appearances, 2 of them starts.
Who was the player that got in for just as the whistle blew?
That was how do you say it? Pisile?
Damiano Pisil.
Pisile, right.
I forgot about that.
Fashionere was on loan, right?
Yeah, Fashionere went to Ottawa.
Did he play at all there? I don't
He
even know.
did. He wasn't a regular starter, but he got a little bit of playing time in their games. But I mean, these guys need playing time. What is made for these guys is this new MLS Reserve League. But with everything that's happening, there's no way you're going to be having these guys playing in an MLS Reserve League. So unless you're going to be having like the 3 Canadian teams just playing non-stop reserve games against each other, I don't see any other thing for these guys apart from loaning them out for next season.
There's no way that's cost effective, right?
No, not with travel and various things like that as well. And I mean, there's been so money wasted in travel, charter flights and everything this year, and just everything like that. And then the next part, we're going to look at MLS and cost cutting and various aspects as well. But last little bit for this part, if you look at the players that the Whitecaps brought in, Ryan Raposo, Gutierrez, Dahomey, Owusu, Meredith, Bikel, Bush, Ranko, Milinkovic. There's not too many of them that really stood out in a spectacular way, but there's a lot of promising signs there. Like Ryan Raposo, I think, is a talent that he just needs to get a little bit more development under his belt. Gutierrez, like Christian Gutierrez for me was a big surprise. I liked what I saw from him, and I want to see a lot more from him in 2021. Christian Dahomey, I put this in our end of season awards on the website. I've put him down as my one to watch for 2021. And I've gone a little bit different from previous years because it's been a complete balls up in previous years because everyone I've picked, it's been like a curse. Kamiri as the one to watch in 2020. Well, we did. We watched him play a pickup game in Andy Livingston Park and then get a ton of injuries. So I've gone for a more experienced guy as our one to watch because I think the signs were there, Steve, from Dahomey, that if he's got a better supporting cast around him, he could have a breakout season in 2021.
Yeah, and I think he really started playing better once his family got into Canada. That was a massive jump there for him. and I think that he will. He did show signs of it. There were moments, and this all had to do with, playing outside your home for so long and everything like that. It seemed like, especially the summer tournament. The summer tournament, I expected a little bit more from him, and we just didn't get it. We got spurts there, we just didn't get the total package. And like I said, near the end of the season, we start seeing better and better from him. I totally agree that once he gets a little bit more run out there, and he gets a midfielder that can get him the ball out on the wide side, and possibly an upgraded right back, somebody to play along that side, I think we should see better stuff for him.
I mean, Zach, the signs at the end of the season, like the way Montero linked up with Dahomey for the Colombian connection, but also bringing Cava into the equation as well, it was all promising. And if we're going to get a proper number 10, if we're maybe going to get another winger, Caicedo looks to be the guy that could be coming in for that. That front four is an exciting proposition, I feel.
It's hard to. I'll be honest.
I know we've been here before.
Yeah, it's hard to be excited about it. I liked where you said in the article about Dahomey being a one to watch, and I think he could be someone who could make significant contributions next year, but he also doesn't feel like a true like difference maker. You know what I mean? Like, don't get me wrong. He has done well, and I think had more bright spots than many of the other people in the squad in 2020. But so I think he can, be raised a level or two. But I don't see him being a difference maker unless there are that many other significant pieces around him that are brought in to help raise his game.
That's the thing. He's one of those players like Cav, I think, that can be difference makers if they get more help.
Yeah.
A lot of players need just, it's like it needs to be a level lineup. You can't have one lineup sinking on one side and then you're hoping to raise it. Everybody has to be on the same level, and that way everybody can play up to their capabilities instead of trying to do too much. Michael, the people I just want to mention, the people you mentioned, I like them all. I'm going to take three out of it though. Meredith, obviously didn't really show anything. Bush was only brought in because of injury. Otherwise, we probably never would have seen him. And Milinkovic was a wild card to begin the season with. And obviously, it turned out that it didn't work out. But everybody else look like they do kind of have a stepping stone to next season, where they have an ability to contribute to next year.
I mean, Owusu and Bikel and Ranko, with an MLS season under their belt, getting used to the weirdness of travel and all the different kind of climates and stuff that they're playing in. Hopefully they push on into 2021 and they take their game to another level. That's all we can really kind of hope for, is an improvement in everyone to the season before. And if we add in the right pieces, it's a team that could make the playoffs in the lower end of the playoffs. Unless we make some amazing big splashes, I think that's really the best we can maybe hope for 2021.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I too agree.
Yeah.
And I like Steve. I agree with what you said in terms of those people. The other one, I know Mike, you already touched on him, but is the one who, and again, it's tied into the fact that he's making inroads with the Canadian national team is Gutierrez. Like, that's the one where when I think Steve's talked about this a lot in the past, or we all have, is that he feels like he has the potential to be the left back for the Vancouver Whitecaps, which would enable them to spend money in other positions by moving on 53-year-old Ali Adnan.
No, totally. Ali Adnan, if they can find somewhere that he can go to next year, like in Russia maybe, if he wants to join in BOM or somewhere else, it would be ideal to get that money in, and hopefully they actually do spend it somewhere else.
Yeah, that's all we can really hope. Well, that is it for this part. We're going to be back with a little bit more Whitecaps chat, but also looking at the year in general in MLS and what might be coming in 2021. We'll be back with that after this.
Hi, I'm Mark Dos Santos, and you're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show.
2020 WTF, you better pull yourself together while there's still time left. Not a day without a murder, week without a bomb. You better pull yourself together before 2021. 2020, have you got no pride? You're worse than 2016 when everybody died. Your celebrities are stupid, your politicians suck, your promises are empty. 2020, what the fuck?
Welcome back to the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio 101.9 FM. And kicking off this part, 2020 WTF, a song by Jim Bob from his pop-up Jim Bob album. Jim Bob, for those that may think it's a familiar name, is the lead singer of Carter the Unstoppable Sex Machine, former Artist of the Month here at AFTN. That was his first solo album for I think 7 years, and was a Christmas present I got. I'll just hold it up for all the listeners to take in on the radio just now. Always a good thing to do. Very good album. Actually, highly recommend it. It's some of his best stuff that he's written for a number of years. And I think that song, 2020 WTF, just basically sums it all up, really, because hopefully 2021 can't get any more weirder than what 2020 was. Because of the nature of it, it is hard in a number of ways to judge performances of players, of coaching, of sporting directors. Front office, I still think we can judge because of the way that they handled the whole Mark Panis situation, which I know we've talked about a lot and don't want to go into it too much, but we'll just touch on it again. Have you been reading his articles that he wrote about how to run a football club?
No.
Oh,
you gotta send me those links.
He brought a blog out.
You never saw them? It was on Twitter all over
yeah,
Twitter.
Lots of subtle little digs, if you read between the lines, Whitecaps owners and what needs to get done and stuff. So I'll tweet those out if anyone hasn't seen them. I think it's a four-part article altogether.
It was from 4 to 5 or something like that. I can't remember, but I think it was definitely 4.
It's excellent stuff, and I genuinely would not be surprised to see him land at one of these expansion teams that's going to be coming in. Maybe Sacramento, maybe St. Louis. Oh no, St. Louis have actually just appointed somebody, of course. So I mean, he could come into Sacramento, he could come into Charlotte. I don't know if they've got anyone in place yet. But
forget the expansion team. Like if you're a team that's struggling to bring people in, if you're an established team, you should be looking at Mark Panis.
Yeah,
to bring him in.
Possibly could maybe do with that, a guy like Mark Panis to help.
I'm talking about like like a FC Dallas or Real Salt Lake or something like that. Like
Salt
team
Lake actually.
Like or a Galaxy, LA Galaxy, anybody like that. This is an expansion team doesn't need him. Any club could use him. I would even say I don't know the CPL commissioner at all or president, but I would nominate Mark Panis for that position if possible.
One of the other behind the scenes things that we haven't talked about because it didn't really feel fitting to talk about it in our jovial, light-hearted Christmas special, which I kind of feel that's happened before, that something's broken just before we're having our light-hearted Christmas special, and I seem to remember saying to you guys, you know what, I don't think this is the right show to talk about it, and then it looks like you're avoiding talking about it. So the whole Bob Birada thing, charges have been pressed now, and it doesn't look good for anyone in this situation.
Involved.
Yeah.
No, it's not even just the Whitecaps. It doesn't look good for Canadian soccer. It doesn't look good for BC soccer. It doesn't look good for the club he was coaching at. I don't recall the name of
Coastal.
Oh, Coastal. Yeah, it doesn't look good for them. It doesn't. Yeah, it just doesn't look good for anybody on it. And the thing is it still seems like that people are not taking responsibility, and like I feel that whatever level that, and I don't like people like saying people should get fired, but some people should get fired because of this. And other clubs and leagues and teams across different leagues and everything, if something were to like this to come out, people would get fired. Oh yeah, it wouldn't even be a discussion.
I do want to say, obviously, innocent until proven guilty, because it's now in the courts and it's going to be decided in a courtroom.
Yeah,
And I
no, I'm
think
not.
because
but,
of that. Nothing can happen until afterwards. But if that comes down that he is guilty,
no, but Michael, the fact that the police say that there should be charges,
yeah,
that tells you that something went wrong. Forget whether he's guilty or not. This should have been taken to the police where they could have investigated, and the fact that it didn't get to them, that's where I'm saying people should
well,
get
yeah, and the
fired
fact
over
it
that.
goes
It's
back
not-
so
it's-
long as well. I mean, it's like way before his time at the Whitecaps. It goes
Yeah.
way back. I mean,
And
that's
it's
just
like I
scary.
said, it's nothing to do with whether he's guilty or not. This is something that should have been taken to the police, and that's where some people should get their
Well, I mean, yeah, essentially, Michael, I think one of the reasons why, as I look at things, one of the reasons why things didn't move forward back when things were happening, particularly when things were happening at the Whitecaps, is because of how they handled it and the process they went about it. I mean, I'm taking Kiera. I always mispronounce her name. Is it Kiera?
Kira McCormick.
Kira McCormick.
I think I always pronounce it wrong though as well, but yeah.
Yeah. So in her blog, when you read her blog, and she talks about going to talk to Bobby Lenarduzzi, to saying, "Hey, there's problems here," and Bobby, according to her, then goes and talks to Coach Billy, Bob Berarda. That is like something's wrong there. Like that can't happen in that way, and that is partly, as I look at things and my perspective, is what hindered other people coming forward with what had happened to them. Mm-hmm. And like I asked, like that's the one question I asked Bobby Lenarduzzi. I emailed him when all this was going on, and I said, "Bob, did you really break one of your players' trusts by doing this?" And he gave the pat answer of like, "Hey, there's things going on. I can't talk about what I did or didn't do," kind of response. And like that, that's to me just unacceptable. That again, according to the blog, if that's what he did, like that is just unacceptable, because that hindered things from that. I again, my perception is that hindered people from sharing their stories and what happened to them, and extended this process far beyond 2008. And it's sad. And I guess you hope for justice, and you hope for healing, and you hope for wholeness for these individuals, and you hope for these types of situations to stop, and you hope for mechanisms which the Whitecaps say they put in place, and the other organizations say they put in place, that will help prevent these from happening, or make more avenues that are clear and fair and whatever for people to report their concerns or their issues or whatever. But it's sad that, like you guys have said, it's sad that so much happened for so long over such a long period of time, and allegedly happened for so long over such a period of time. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see this play out, and what is proven, and then what happens from there. But Steve, I think you're right. Like even retroactively, like something like there's still things that like should be done. And like, yeah, I mean, obviously this thing, it's hard for people like me to disconnect this thing from how the Whitecaps function as an organization and the way they've chosen to go about certain things. And for me, this and how they handle this and the way they went about this is just symptomatic of how they operate. And it's one of the reasons why I can't support this executive and this ownership group. And I'm one of those people who hopes that for people who love football in Vancouver, that they move on in one way, shape, or form at some date, so that people who don't want to support their approach can have a club to support in the city of Vancouver.
The scary thing is that like with all the stuff that went on, is that some of these people in the front office aren't even offering resignations. That's how protected they feel.
Well, yeah, or they feel that they didn't do anything wrong.
That's the resignation part. That they know they're not going to get fired. Like usually people will resign or they'll be like pushed to resign or something like that, and that's not even happening. Like usually you get something like that going on.
I would say I liked Axel's statement. I thought that was a step in the right direction, and it was the first time, I think, that the Whitecaps acknowledged their failings in it. And I can't imagine that this is something that Axel has looked at and thought that the club has handled well. And I would imagine he's probably quite fuming about it, but probably limited as to what he can come out and say publicly. But I mean, echoing just what Zach said, I think for all the girls and women involved, you want three things. You want healing, you want closure, and you want change so that no one else has to go through a situation like this.
I would also say the people that were directly involved, I think they should get justice. If it again, proven innocent until proven guilty, but if it did happen, they should definitely get justice for that too.
So I mean, let's segue. No easy way to do it, but let's get back talking about the football chat. So we mentioned Axel there in his statement. It's been a difficult first year for Axel at the club. We talked about that to Axel himself when we sat down with him in December. I think when he came here, he could never have imagined being separated from his family for months at end, a pandemic, not having your team playing in your home city, starting the year in a sporting director's role, finishing it in a joint role as a CEO as well. Everything that went with it, it's just been a difficult year for Axel. I mean, can you even really, do you feel, assess him this year? Or if you do, how do you feel he's done in his jobs this year?
I would say that right now, I would give him if it was a letter grade, I would say maybe C plus or C or something like that. Satisfactory, and that's if you believe what like. And again, I'm not saying he's lying, but believe on what he's saying about the inability to get people in. If that's the case, and there were people that he was trying to get, I would give him a C plus at this point.
I know it's hard because this has been a story that's been given for years, but I genuinely believe what he said, because I'm looking at it that if I was a player, why would I want to come to Vancouver just now to play for a team that's not playing in Vancouver? So I would fully expect players to go, look, I can't leave my wife and family in a foreign country, or like in Axel's case himself, his family were back in Germany, so he was separated from his family for months.
No, and you know what? I it's just I know I said that if it's not true, but I do agree with you that it's most likely that he's not, but I'm still giving that little bit of leeway.
Well, yeah, because it's something we've heard. We've always heard about these near misses.
Yeah, exactly. That's the issue. It's PTSD basically.
Yeah, and you see other clubs managing to get things done, and other Canadian clubs managing to get things done. But I mean, how do you feel it's fair to assess Axel in the last year?
Yeah, I if you're gonna, Steve's talking letter grades or whatever. For me, in that kind of way, it feels like an incomplete, right? Like, which again is, you kind of feel like that for maybe the season as a whole. But just thinking about you guys as you guys are talking there about the bringing players in and whatever. There obviously the pandemic has created huge obstacles to that. I still think that there are other obstacles that the Whitecaps themselves have created, and that again goes back to a whole bunch of things. How people have left Vancouver and their perception on leaving Vancouver, right? And how they have shared those perspectives with other people, and how even within MLS and in certain parts of the world, the Whitecaps have a reputation that's not a positive one for how they holistically treat their players, right? Coming in, that goes well. That's all good. It's when things are done, or sometimes in the middle that they've created a bad reputation for themselves. So in one sense, the pandemic has created a hard situation, but not Axel, but those who've gone before him have created issues that hinder their ability to bring in any like players in general, I would say. And so I don't know how they get over that without turning a page that they're not going to turn.
I mean, that is the thing just now for Axel and MDS, is like they're unfortunately in a position where everything that's gone before them is what shapes the fans' opinion of what this club is. So they've got a chance to change that and to make a difference, but they're trying to do it in 2 pandemic years where it's going to be so hard to do what they want to do. And that's unfortunate for them, because we talked about it last year, and a year down the road, we're talking about it again. It's a big, big year for the Whitecaps in terms of supporter retention. And it's hard to retain supporters when they can't maybe get to the games to see the team, when the team might not be playing here or might not be able to get transfers done that they want to do. And there's other things now coming up, which I guess this is maybe a good time to talk about this just in general for MLS. MLS has invoked force majeure. So the players went through a lot this season, and they've gone through a lot across the league. But
is that sorry, quick question. Is that the thing from Braveheart?
Force majeure?
No, you're thinking prima nocta. That's very different.
Okay. Sorry, I misunderstood that. Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
If they want to paint their faces with Scottish flags, I'm all in favour of that, just to point that out. Maybe we'll get a few Scottish players in. David Witherspoon's just started following the AFTN Canada Twitter account, so, I mean, who knows? Maybe he's looking for a move to Vancouver. But, yeah, MLS has invoked force majeure. So basically they're going to renegotiate the collective bargaining agreement. So the players are coming to the bargaining table for the 3rd time in the space of a year. So after all the hardships that they went through, for Canadian teams, their players went through the hardships of being away from their families for months and just seeing them for a couple of days at a time. Throughout the league, players had swabs stuck up their noses several times a week just to make sure that they could play football and provide entertainment and line the owners' pockets and television deals and stuff. And the thank you that they get for that is they might have to take pay cuts, they might get locked out, etc, etc, etc. It's a complete kick in the balls for the players. I hope they take a stand. I hope they strike. And I hope they play hardball, because you're talking about millionaires, billionaires that own clubs, raking in obscene amounts of money from expansion fees. Teams coming in for the next couple of years paying these stupid amount of money in expansion fees. They go to the they go to the owners and not the clubs, and not invested in the clubs necessarily. The owners can if they want to. So it does not sit comfortably. I agree that MLS are losing money. They said they'd lost about $1 billion. Yeah, I'm sure they have. But these are not poor owners that you're talking about. I just think it's ridiculous, and I hope the players really play hardball in this, Zach.
Going into last year, one of the things that I think was important was when the players union, for the year leading up to last year's negotiations and making a deal on a new CBA, one of the things they tried to make as public as possible is how they, as a union, and through their reps and their connecting and their communications, try to instill in the players the importance of saving up money for the potential of a strike.
Yeah.
Now, I know we've just gone through a pandemic year, and I think they lost, 25% of their wages this year or whatever. I hope that the union was as active this season in telling them to get ready, because this was part of the redone deal prior to, or around the pandemic or whatever, when they had to redo the CBA because of the pandemic or whatever. And so this was a possibility, and I hope, because I mean, to me, Michael, if it's true that enough of the players were prepared to go on strike last year, when who knows what was going to happen or how it was going to play out before a pandemic. if they were ready then, and they again encourage their members to think ahead for this year, where I know they made less money, hopefully they're ready financially. The players, predominantly, they're ready to go on strike this year, because if you were willing to go on strike last year when the deal wasn't good or whatever, and presumably this deal is not going to be good for the players, if the owners are saying, hey, what we did last year wasn't good enough, it's not going to be good for the players. So hopefully they've set aside enough that they can go ride out a year without playing, because it's most likely that the season is not going to be a normal season and is going to have a whole bunch of restrictions or alterations because of the pandemic, like the 2020 season. And so if they were ready last year, hopefully they're ready this year, and hopefully they can look at it and say, yeah, we're not going to take a bad deal from the league and these owners, and we're going to sit out a year because it's going to be an awful year for us and our families anyways. So why not? Let's go on strike. We were ready for it. We set money aside. We kept it aside during the pandemic, blah, blah, blah. That's what I hope will happen. Now, obviously, it's hard to think that 100% of the people will be ready for that, but that's really what I hope that they'll do, and they'll really stick it to the owners, because it is just extremely sad what they've chosen to do, based on how the players help the season move forward.
So I was looking up force majeure on Google. I was Googling it, and it came up with a film. It came out in 2014. It's a Swedish film. And let me just give you the line from it that describes it. And let me know if this resembles what MLS is doing. It follows tension resulting from an avalanche during which the husband, named Thomas, prioritizes his own escape over the safety of his family.
Yeah.
You should
That's
tweet
pretty
that
much MLS.
Yeah.
I mean, if I was a player just now that was playing for Vancouver, Toronto, or Montreal, and then I'm getting put to me, okay, do you want to vote for this really worst deal, or do you want to go on strike? I'm thinking, why would I vote for worse if there's a good chance I'm going to be away from my family for months on end? Fuck this, I'm prepared to go on strike. And the other aspect of this as well is, how many transfers could this mess up? Because if there's uncertainty, are clubs going to be willing to sign a player from overseas and then have that contract for a season that might be curtailed, might not even go ahead, depending on how bad the situation gets with all of this?
Yeah.
Or if you're a player as well, do you want to think, well, I could sign for MLS, but there's not even a guarantee I'm going to be playing. I might just stay in Europe until the summer and just kind of see how things go.
Exactly. What if you're a player from Argentina that played his whole career in Barcelona? Would you want to come over to Miami and play there?
I wouldn't want to play in Miami to begin with, but yeah, I mean, that's a very valid point. It's like,
are they willing to risk a strike if Messi is truly going to come here?
haha, yeah, that's a thing as well. That if Messi said, yeah, as long as you guys don't strike, I'll come to MLS in the summer, it'll be like, let's just give the players what they want. Yeah, that'll be fantastic. But I mean, you are going to have like players that's maybe about to put pen to paper, not just for the Whitecaps, but across the league. And they're now thinking, you know what, I might just wait to the summer, just kind of see where the land lies, because I'd rather stay where I am and know that I've got a guaranteed wage coming out of it.
True.
I mean, the MLS season, just before we wrap this part up, I enjoyed MLS back. I think it's that, and maybe the last 2 years' playoffs, because they've been a bit batshit crazy with the single knockout games. That's the most I've enjoyed MLS in the whole years that I've watched MLS, I think.
I think the MLS back tournament was the best part of the season.
Absolutely.
Except for the final. I thought the final was really good, entertaining and everything, but definitely that MLS back tournament was probably the best part.
Yeah, I mean, for me, that was the highlight of the season. It was good to see the crew winning the MLS Cup. And as I said, on our post-game or our watch-along for the MLS Cup, forget trying to be like Seattle. Forget trying to be like LAFC. The Whitecaps need to be like a Columbus and just get that consistent build, get consistent investment in the places that matter, bring in difference makers, and then just see where that takes you. And the MLS landscape, I don't think is going to be changing too much this year because of the pandemic. So this is a chance for teams like the Whitecaps to maybe catch up a little bit by bringing in a couple of key difference makers. Cavallini, it's a big season coming up for him, I feel. He's got to do better than he did in 2020. He's got to maybe hone that kind of aggression side of him just a little bit. But I want to be optimistic. I want to think that there's going to be maybe not a full 34-game season, but I think there's going to be a lengthy season. I hope it's enjoyable. All I can really hope for is that Vancouver and all the Canadian teams, whether there's fans there or not, somehow get to play matches, whether it's in a bubble or regularly on home soil. And of course, the whole NHL thing with the Canucks and the Canadian teams being allowed to play at Rogers Arena and stuff, that could be a big game changer.
What do you mean, like the being able to? But the Whitecaps were able to host teams, though.
True, and I guess it is all Canadian teams.
Yeah, so that's really not gonna.
The whole thing is about a game changer.
Yeah, it's the whole thing is about going down to the States. And again, like I've said before, if you're going to be situated in Portland and you know you're going to be situated in Portland for most of the season, that's a good way to sell it to players. I
think that's very true. Any final things you want to say about MLS, Zach?
Good riddance.
Oh,
sorry.
He's trying to get to the next part.
Yes. Let's just get to the next part now then. So that's it for this part. We're going to be moving away now from the Whitecaps and MLS. We're going to be looking closer at home as we look at the Canadian Premier League after this.
Hi, I'm Alan Koch, and you are listening to the AFTN Soccer Show.
Welcome back to the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio 101.9 FM. And kicking off this part, because I didn't get a chance to play them in the Christmas special, it's our last song from December's Artist of the Month, Husker Du, with a song from the 1986 album Candy Apple Grey. That was Sorry Somehow. Maybe that could be one of the phrases the Whitecaps adopt in their training centre. We're sorry somehow for things that we've done and our lack of achievement. But we're not talking Whitecaps in this part. We're moving into the Canadian Premier League. We talked about the difficult season it was for MLS. It was an even more difficult season for the Canadian Premier League, as teams only got to play minimum of 7, maximum of 11 games for a CPL season. But much like the MLS's back tournament, the Island Games, a bubble tournament, highly enjoyable, and for me, one of the best parts of the footballing season.
I enjoyed them thoroughly. I obviously didn't get to watch every single game, but just watching the highlights and the games we were able to watch, I think they pulled it off. I honestly think they did it well. and it was entertaining and everything like that. So I think it did well, and it probably had a little bit to do with the fact that Pacific was doing so well in the tournament and they were showing well.
Yeah, I think the CPL did well in terms of the island games. They I think it was helpful for them. They got to learn from MLS's back. I think that really helped them, even just on the digital sponsorship side of things and all that the stuff that MLS did at their tournament. I think it was good. I know that they're different things, and I kind of still, looking back, enjoyed the fact that the whole season was one tournament, and then like that was it. That made it kind of bigger and more special. I also appreciated how they were a little bit creative with kind of the throwback to old, World Cups of yesteryear with 2 group stages as opposed to just a group stage and then a knockout. I like how they did that. I think the one thing that stands out, and this is tied into MLS's back, but the league as a whole, and I hope I'm not rooting any of the other stuff you want to say, Michael, but is the fact that the league, and again, the pandemic maybe slows this down in one respect, but it doesn't seem like there's any sign of changing this, is that the league and their commissioner, who's known from some of his previous work for not being really open to this, is that there's not an official players union yet. That's probably one of the most disappointing things about 2020 and even going into the Island Games, that when you had all that downtime in between I know they were focusing all their energy on the games, but there was a lot of downtime for them between when they were going to start up in March, April to when the Island Games took place, and then since then there's been a lot of time, and nothing's happened on that front.
I mean, that's my biggest worry stroke disappointment about it all is mid-September. That was it. The season was over, and it was so good and it was so enjoyable, and I would love them to do more tournaments like this. MLS as well. They were just huge successes for me. It was like mini World Cups, club World Cups, a feast of football in a short period of time. But then it ends and you've got this void as a fan watching it. But as a player, you've got these guys now that haven't played since mid-September. Most of them haven't gone on loan anywhere because it's obviously difficult with travel and visas and stuff right now. You hope the season might kick off in April, but there's not a guarantee of that. Realistically, it could be next summer before they get another CPL game with a ball kicked in anger. So you're looking at maybe 9-10 months that these players aren't going to have played. And these are young guys that's in their key development time. It's a big, big loss for them.
I would hope that they would do something where they plan for multiple bubbles, where they can play over 3 weeks. They play 6 games, maybe take 2 weeks off, and then go to another bubble, maybe in another city, play 6 games, and just keep repeating that. If that's something they have to do this year, and eventually have a final bubble where you have the top 4 teams go there. That's where your finals are, your semifinals and finals or whatever. Or you could play a quick round robin tournament, see who's the top 2 teams that they play in the final in that last bubble. So I would say maybe get 18, maybe do 3 separate tournaments where all the teams are there, and then have that final one over. Maybe that gets them 18 games over a full season, and then the final playoffs. That's what my hope is, that they plan for that.
I think that would be a wonderful thing to happen, and I mean, PI was a great base for the Island Games, and I mean, I fell in love with the place, and I was meant to have gone there in 2019, and we had to cancel our trip because my wife wasn't feeling well. So I still hope to go there at some point. I loved it, but I mean, you've got like Victoria. It would be a great base to have a kind of winter or even into the spring tournament. I mean, that would be fine. And then have something maybe in Ontario, or go back to the Maritimes.
This is what I was thinking. I was thinking you start off in Victoria, then you play your next bubble in somewhere in the prairies, maybe in Calgary or something like that. Then your next one's in Ontario, and then your finals are in PEI. So you have a coast to coast season, basically.
That's a brilliant idea, Steve.
Yeah, I really like that.
We should get you in touch with.
Oh, if they just tell them to listen to this part of the podcast,
I'm sure they do.
clip it.
I know Pacific really wanted to host.
Yeah.
Like I think it was just the province not making it possible, which was understandable. And
I
don't disagree with. So.
Yeah, totally. And the way it worked out in PI, I think was fantastic. They're bringing out a commemorative book for the Island Games this month actually, and they've got one of the guys. I think his name's Dariush. He does some football cartoons. So what he's done is he's done a kind of illustration for every single goal from the Island Games. So it's like drawn as a cartoon in the book, and I've seen some advanced like pictures of it, and it looks fantastic. It really looks an amazing book.
How big of a percentage does Pamudica fill into the Victoria goals? Because he was 100%. He was 100% on all of them when they actually scored them in the replays.
But I think that's a novel way of doing it as well, just to get the goals kind of documented that way for posterity. The league's presence in this country, though, still feels that it leaves a lot to be desired.
I do disagree. I'll disagree with you a little bit there. I just sorry to cut you off.
No, it's okay.
The CFL wasn't around at all, and so they put a little bit of foothold. Sorry, and then the fact that Hamilton was in that, and they were getting highlights put on TSN.
Yeah,
so that helped as well. So you and they were performing well in those games as well. And they highlighted how they got CONCACAF in the last game. So that shows that they are getting some kind of presence there. I agree with you; it's not as big as you would hope for, but it is growing slowly, and maybe slowly is better instead of just jumping out and pushing it down, ramming down people's throats initially, and so they get sick and tired of it.
Yeah,
I mean, it's such a good. I don't like using this jargon of product, but it's a good league. It's an entertaining league, and I just wish there was more eyeballs on it, and also just general media coverage of the league as well. Now, obviously, it's great for us because it gives us lots of stuff that other folk aren't doing. We get to talk to lots of people and bring interviews that's maybe not elsewhere. But ultimately, that's not necessarily good for the league. You want it in as many places as possible, and I think they've been good. A lot of the clubs have been good at reaching out to like local podcasts and local bloggers to kind of get them involved and get them on side, and that's the way it should be. A big worry though, Zach, and I don't know if you've heard this much about this on the grapevine or not, is how secure the Media Pro One Soccer deal is, because there was the issues with them basically not being able to pay the contract and the deal for League One in France. So will that have ramifications? Will the CPL lose some money that they were maybe expecting from this? Because Media Pro, I cannot imagine, made much, if anything at all, from the subscriptions for the Island Games, as in terms of a profit.
Yeah, I don't know any inside information on that at this time. I haven't asked too many people about that, but yeah, it's a concern. Now, obviously, the contract with the French Federation, the French League pales in comparison to the $20 million over. Was it $20 million over 10 years?
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, obviously those things kind of pale in comparison, but yeah, it's not a good sign, and it is another blight, another bad look, bad mark for Media Pro. Right. There have been people questioning their involvement with. Who they're involved with, or who their owners are, or what their people have done in terms of some of the football allegations and things that have happened in the last 5-6 years or whatever. So it's that's not great. Now, I don't think most people in Canada pay attention to that, but because I think the $20 million deal, Michael, is also not $20 million in cash, right? I think it's $20 million. I think it involves structure and having offices and bringing
services and
services, bringing the equipment here and and all that kind of stuff. So and all that's really important to the Canadian Premier League and where it's at in terms of its development as a league. But so I'm not super worried at this moment, but it has to be at least a little bit concerning. And I'm sure that the league, the owners, have been following up and figuring out what's what and does this impact them. But as of right now, I don't know any inside scoop to whether or not it does, but I'm not concerned at the moment. But it's something definitely that needs to be, monitored at least.
The other aspect in that as well is they've got nothing to show or sell for who knows how long. That's the problem as well. I genuinely think they should have snapped up the Scottish football rights, because Sportsnet let it lapse. It would have brought some expats like Rangers and Celtic fans would have signed up just to watch Rangers and Celtic games. So I think they've missed out on an opportunity there. It would have had eyeballs all year round, I think, in that regard. I'm not just saying that as a Scottish person, but it's like folk love to watch the Old Firm.
Yeah, is it still not available, or
no,
it's
not at
picked
all.
it up?
Not on anything.
I'm sure. I can't believe they wouldn't have looked at it, Michael. I just don't know for them if it would have been cost effective to buy the rights and see that make money or at least break even on the platform. But you're right. You're right. It definitely would have added to what they have, right?
But you think they would have? Wouldn't they have? It wouldn't have been feasible for both to just go into like a partnership where you say, "Oh, if we see an increase in our subscriptions, we'll pay X amount of that or whatever."
Because their product's not getting shown over
At
here,
all.
so it's like, well, let's just do a tentative deal, see how it goes for this season.
I definitely think it's worth the risk in that case.
Whereas they show the Chinese Super League, who really gives a toss about that? Liga MX, it's like, there's some good stuff there, but is there really that big a demand that folks going to buy the product just for that? I don't know. But 2021, we don't know what it's going to bring in terms of when the games are going to be played, who's going to be strong or whatever. There's a new coach at Edmonton, Alan Koch. We're going to have him on the show this month. We're going to be chatting with Alan, just catching up with him after what's been a busy time leaving Colorado Springs Switchbacks. Do you think he's got enough to turn Edmonton around in one season, or could we be looking at a bit of a project there?
I think you can do like a bump of like 30-40% of what they were last year, just himself and his coaching style. So I think he has that capability. I don't know if that's enough to move him up the ranks of the CPL.
I guess in essence, I'll disagree with Steve. I think in the limited history we have to call upon in the Canadian Premier League, we can see that a quality coach can turn a team around in one season. Now, Stephen Hart's, what he did in Halifax, obviously he was in control for both seasons, so that's a little bit different. But I still think that there's potential for that. Now, it's obviously nowhere near a guarantee or a sure thing, but I think it'll be good for Edmonton to have a new voice and a new person leading things for them there. Obviously, we know Alan, so we wish him well. We hope the best for him, but I still kind of don't like Edmonton, so I don't really want to. I mean, there's some people in Edmonton I really appreciate.
When I first heard the story, Alan Koch, I was like, geez, why couldn't there be a Fraser Valley team at this point where he could have taken over that? That was that's you hope for. But obviously it didn't happen.
He would probably have got the Pacific job if he had just waited an extra month, but he had just taken the Colorado Springs Switchback job. Would he have been a better fit at Pacific than Pa? I don't know.
No,
Pa got him really motivated. I think Pa was a great appointment.
I do too. But I thought the same thing when the Pacific thing happened. But then when you see what Pa did this past year, it was worked out for him for sure. And Pacific.
I also think it might be more expectations on Alan to be with a BC team, just because he's got his history with SFU and with the Whitecaps, and he's known here. Whereas I'm not saying he's not known in Edmonton, but it might be a little bit less pressure, especially with how poorly Edmonton have done in the first 2 years.
Is Paul Slough now like fully not employed by FC Edmonton?
I think he's still doing something. I think he's got something to do with the academy.
Because like he's with, is it Edmonton Scottish or whatever, running their, like he's their technical director or whatever.
Maybe he's moved to that then.
His Twitter, like that's his profile picture, I think, on his Twitter now. Is like, hey, I'm.
Oh, that I didn't know. Maybe.
Let me just double check that. But
hey, did Pacific ever do anything like marketing wise with PA at all?
It was tough, I think.
Considering their first two letters start with the same, like it's Pacific. You could use to do that. So. I wonder
you're
if they
on
did
fire
it.
tonight. You need to get into some CPL marketing stuff here.
I thought that would have been ideal.
That's really good.
Jeff Paulus is the technical director for Edmonton Scottish United.
Good old Scots.
At least that could be a chant.
Pacific.
Yeah.
It says currently being taught to coach by the 2007 PDP boys.
Interesting. But maybe it's going to, though, be a kind of funnel into the Eddies anyway. Last couple of questions just about the CPL before we wrap this part up. It's going to be an interesting year, obviously, for the league as to what they do playing-wise. It's also going to be interesting, I think, to watch what Canadian players that are overseas might decide with everything that's going on with viruses and vaccines and pandemic and uncertainty and travel. How many might want to come back if they know that there's going to be a season? And that's the issue. Much like what we talked about with MLS and force majeure, if the CPL can't say for a while what's going to happen, how do you attract players when they know they can stay in Europe and get games?
And you can't, and that's the worst part of what happened last year, because I think the people probably some of the top players that would have came over here, Canadian players that are in Europe right now, they probably wanted to see a couple of years of CPL and how it ran and everything like that before they decided.
Yeah.
And you really can't count last year as a full season.
No, for as much as it was enjoyable, I'm sure players are looking at that going, I need more than 7 games in a year.
Yeah.
I think that hinders things a little bit, and it also takes away from that what you were saying in terms of like they want to take a couple years to see what it looks like, and they haven't had 2 full seasons to do that. So, but I think on the other side, you might have people who are just like, yeah, I want to go home, like, or I want to be close to family because life just sucks right now, and so you might have some people like that, but interesting times when it comes to that. Last
thing on the CPL, I'm going to ask for a prediction, which is impossible, I know, but is anyone going to stop Forge, or are we in for a kind of Forge dynasty, much like Vancouver 86ers when the CSL first started?
I don't think Forge is that. Are they not that above everybody else? They shown, especially in that tournament, the Island Games, they showed that they were not as good. They just rose up to it in the final. That they were able to get in that last round robin. So I do think they can be beaten. I don't think they're as close. The gap between them and the other teams is anywhere close to what the 86ers had with the other teams in the CSL back in the day. So I don't think that's anywhere close. I think they can be beaten on any certain day.
Yeah, I don't think they're as good as their record shows, personally. And yeah, I think it would be good for the league.
Yes.
To see someone, maybe even someone other than Cavalry, have a go at them. I know. Obviously, it was the Wanderers who came second in the tournament this year. But but I don't think they're. It's only if they think highly of themselves that they need to worry. But if they do begin to think as highly of themselves as some people think of them, then I think they could be in trouble this year.
The thing is, having a team that dominates this much is not totally a bad thing, because that one year when they finally do get beaten, it kind of reverberates throughout the whole league and it becomes a big deal. So it's not a bad thing to have a really strong team, but you don't want it to be totally dominant for like 10 years.
Well, let's just hope they beat TFC at least in the 2020 Canadian Championship final whenever it eventually gets played, which probably is going to be February at this rate. But that's it for our CPL talk. We've got one more part of the show to go, and we're going to be keeping a little bit of focus in Canada, but looking more at the international side of things, and we will be back with that after this.
Hi, I'm Alfonso Davies, and you're listening to the AFTN Soccer Show.
Second. Why am I second to the boots I wear? Why am I second to my coat and hair? Why am I second to the car I got? My watch and my jeans and my polo top. Second. Why am I second to the holiday I book? The colour of my skin when I get there drunk. Why am I second to the bread I buy? The coffee beans roasted at a heat I like. Second. I said 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Second, third, fourth, fifth, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Welcome back to the AFTN Soccer Show on CITR Radio 101.9 FM. And kicking off this part, it was our new Artist of the Month, the first of 2021, English band Sleaford Mods, with a song there called Second, taken from their All That Glue album, just holding that up of course for the listeners at home, which was a CD that I ordered and was shipped on October 2nd, and I got it on New Year's Eve. Yes, nearly 3 months it took to come from the UK. This is why your Christmas presents go awry. But I've got it now. It's a good song. They will be our Artist of the Month for January. We've played a few songs for them before in the podcast. I was going to play an unreleased track that's on that album called Rochester, in tribute to AEW wrestler Brody Lee, real name John Huber, that sadly passed away on Boxing Day. Did you watch the AEW tribute show on Wednesday night, Steve?
Yeah, of course.
I was crying from start to finish.
It was really well done. They were able to it's just everything kind of fit into place. It was really well done.
We should have done a YouTube show, man. People would have wanted to see you guys tear up.
Oh no, I'm sure Steve watched the Wrestle Talk guys. Luke Owen was just struggling to do his reports on it. It was just heartbreaking to watch it. 41, just a great family man. Everyone seems to have loved him. As Chris Jericho said in the commentary, it's like it's rare in wrestling that everyone likes you. And Jim Ross said if you get out of the business with 5 people that you can class as your friends, that's a good thing. But everyone seemed to love John Huber, and just a sad loss. And 2020 was just a sad year for footballer deaths as well. December, you had Diego Maradona, you had Paolo Rossi, 2 absolute legends, big parts of my childhood of watching World Cups. Just found out today, I'd missed this on New Year's Eve, Scottish manager Tommy Docherty, he died, he was 92. Then Jim McLean, who's another Scottish manager who did wonders with Dundee United, took them from just a small club to being better than Celtic and Rangers, beating Barcelona in European competitions, and he passed away. A lot of English players, Nobby Stiles, Ray Clements. It's just been a really sad years for football and deaths.
You got the 86 World Cup head coach. I'm blanking on the name. I always do this. For Canada.
Tony Waiters.
Tony Waiters
of
passed
course,
through this year too. Yeah, so that was difficult as well.
Yeah, I shouldn't have been so joking about the wrestling thing before, because that is a tragic story. And
and it was great because they involved his kid who wants to be a wrestler when he grows up. They actually had a spot where one of the bad guys ripped off his mask, the kid's mask. And then he got revenge by hitting him with a kendo stick right over the head. So it was really cool.
It was very well done. Like how, I don't know,
You could see that the wrestlers, especially the ones that were close to him, were actually like they had been crying.
Oh,
you
John Silver, that he just
Yeah.
collapsing at the end of his fight. And when Eric Rowan came in with that sign,
Yeah.
I'm tearing up just now, just like thinking about it. It was just so touching. It was just, I'd said to Caitlin, if when I pass, if there's people that care half as much about me that they cared about him, it's like you've had a great life and you've made a big impact on things. But let's move on to slightly happier things, and well, much happier things actually, which was the success of a lot of the young Canadian soccer players in terms of what they achieved at club level, the awards that they seem to have been picking up left, right and centre at the end of the year. Alphonso Davies, Kadisha Buchanan, Christine Sinclair, named various like athletes of the year, which I know from talking to Richard Scott at the CSA, it's the first time that soccer players individually, especially soccer players that are playing over in Europe, have actually won these awards, like the Canadian Press Awards and the other awards, the Lou Marsh one and stuff like that. Is soccer becoming more mainstream, more accepted to what was, I guess, in the past, people just focused on hockey, basketball, CFL stroke NFL?
I think it was always there. I think it's been the media that has not maybe caught on, and maybe the people that were following it didn't expect very much from the media, so it was like they weren't really clamoring for the media to talk about it. But I think they have realized that there is people watching this just by the ratings, and when you get a player playing in probably the biggest club game in the world, and you're getting all those eyes on it, you obviously are going to pay more attention to that.
But when you're naming like an athlete of the year, it's always like I'm not knocking their achievements at all, but when you play on a team, I always find that balance of, can you say that one person deserves to be athlete of the year because they've played in a team where it's a team sport and the whole team has produced that, whereas something like a tennis player or a golfer or a runner or something like that, a boxer, it's all just them.
Well, I mean, yeah, I hear what you're saying, and no, I think it's valid because even when you play in a team, you're still an athlete. You have individual roles and responsibilities and contributions, and I mean, what you're talking about is it would be nice to have an award for individual sport versus team sports, you know. But yeah, well, how did you guys feel about the how they chose to handle the Lou Marsh Award?
I was going to bring that up because I don't know. I'll you guys say what you think first.
The guy from the Chiefs who won the Super Bowl and then chose to not play and to volunteer and stuff and use his abilities in that way. I think it's a great story.
Yeah.
I think it's an outstanding achievement to win the Super Bowl. Not many Canadians have, right?
We beat the 49ers, so that put him down in my estimation to begin with. But yeah.
There you go. But I'm sorry. It does not compare to the 2020 that Alphonso Davies had.
Yeah.
In any way, shape, or form.
Because you're talking about one game as opposed to a season,
or even 17 games, like 17, like, you know, whatever, or the games, 16 league, I guess 16 league games, and they're whatever. It doesn't matter. Like, I know it's the biggest. I know it's the biggest trophy, you know, in that league, and I know that league is extremely powerful and wealthy and all that kind of stuff. But what Alphonso Davies did and how he contributed to his team's success in 2020, winning 5 trophies, fighting for a 6th in February with that essentially the same group of players, is like, I don't like. I obviously Bayern Munich is my first love in club football, and I love Alphonso Davies. I don't know if he's ever going to achieve that again. You know, like I want Bayern to have another year like that, even this year, but like that might never ever happen ever again. And he was so good, and his contributions, he contributed from a position that is a defensive position where he played well on defense, but made contributions that weren't just scoring. I mean, he scored a couple goals and whatever, but like his contributions were allowing the team to play in such a way that made them like dominant, right? That allowed them to masterfully, crush Barcelona in like a game that will be remembered for the ages. And yeah, to me, again, no disrespect at all to the dude from the Chiefs, but his achievements pale in comparison to what Alphonso Davies did this year, in my estimation.
But the thing is I think the take away the athletic part of it. I think the problem is that when you have a lot of media, some media will vote for the story, and the story of 2020 was COVID, right? And so when you have him walking away, like I prefer him winning a humanitarian of the year award for Canadian athletes or something like that. That would have been more befitting, but it's the same thing years ago. And the documentary just came out this year. Back in the day, there was a big thing about, Larry Walker, Maple Ridge's Larry Walker going up against Jacques Villeneuve. And people saying that, well, he's just driving a car. It's the car that's doing all the work, whereas Larry Walker was the MVP of the league, the top player in that league. So like that's where the arguments come. People go for the story sometimes and not the actual achievement.
The reason I was hesitant to say anything, I want to hear what you guys said, is the one aspect of it that I hated was how polarizing the debate became between soccer journalists and other sports journalists. And it's like, we should be celebrating all achievements of Canadian sports people. There's no need to turn it into you hate soccer, I love soccer, which is what a lot of people kind of turned it into, and I didn't like that.
I agree with you, and so my opinion is my opinion is what it is, what I just shared. However, I'm not someone who wants to go out and look for a fight on Twitter.
That's the problem.
People have a different or opposite opinion than mine. And the coolest thing of all this was, whether it's him, his family, his people, whatever, one of the greatest things in all this for me was how Alphonso Davies himself handled it. Gracious, lots of class, just like, I'm really honored to share this with this dude, and congratulations to him as well. Like he handled it very, very well. But I agree with you, Michael. I didn't wade into those waters. I didn't even look at it. I heard about it. I didn't really look at a lot of it. But it becomes hey, what I like is more important than what you like a little bit. Yeah,
that's what I didn't like.
And the thing is what was the, like, I can understand if you have the opinion, like Zach came out with, but why is it an issue of getting in a fight when they each won the award? Yeah, sure, it's a co-winner, but there have been co-winners in the past for other awards in like music and movies and stuff like that. What's the harm in having a co-winner? They're still officially the winner of the award that year.
Am I right in saying that it was 18-18-1?
Yeah.
So why did they not just go to the one and say, okay, we're tied, you have to cast and vote?
Well, that's the thing. I think it was a bit of an appeasement of like, hey, like we this story is bigger in our culture, the pigskin guy, but we can't ignore what Alphonso Davies has done, and so maybe this is a way we can make everyone happy.
I don't think it had anything to do with football, and I think it had everything to do with the COVID and the fact that he gave up the thing, and I think that's what they're trying to award him for that. If he had not won the Super Bowl, I agree that he probably wouldn't have won the award as well.
Yeah.
But the combination of winning the award and then walking away from like $5 million in salary or whatever, $8 million or whatever it was, I think that had a lot to do with it. That got him those extra votes.
It's all Jimmy Garoppolo's fault. That's basically what it boils down to. Didn't get the job done in that final quarter for the 49ers.
Yeah, the defense has something to do with it too.
Well, maybe. But last thing, just to round this review of the year and a quick look forward to 2021 up, just international football. Obviously, it was a very difficult and impossible year for international football on this continent. There is camp coming up this month in Florida, I think it is. That we talked about in the last show. maybe some games against Panama coming out of this camp. Then we've got the World Cup qualifiers coming up. Hopefully these games go ahead. I have concerns about our European players coming over to play in these games because of travel restrictions and whether they will be allowed to come, because FIFA had said if countries have quarantine for more than a certain number of days, they don't have to release their players. Yeah. So Canada could be going into these World Cup qualifiers not with their best lineup, which would be just horrible.
Horrible, but I have no problem with it. If that's the rules they have to go by. Hopefully by then, by the time the qualifiers come up, things open up a little bit, because that means everything's getting better. But if it doesn't, then I'm fine with it. If they miss a World Cup because of that, what can you do?
I'm happy to give my dad's vaccine shots to Fonzie if that's going to help him be able to come over, but don't tell him. His memory's going anyway. He'll never remember if he's had it or not.
I was going to say that, but I thought it might be a little bit insensitive. No, I mean, I've said this before on the show, but I used to be a huge country over club person when I came into football, and I've maybe just become jaded or whatever. But I'm definitely become the opposite. So yeah, I mean, the international game, I think they've done things in the last few years to try and make it more meaningful and relevant and all that kind of stuff that I personally haven't enjoyed, particularly the League of Nations in Europe, which I have not followed like hardly at all.
Hey, it's worked good for Scotland.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, sir. I can boogie all night long.
Yeah, I know. Moving forward, yeah, hopefully that whatever the qualifiers that need to take place, and like there's still a potential Euro this summer, right?
Yes.
So
with Scotland there, yes,
2021.
I can boogie all night long.
2021 could see a lot of boogieing, and so yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I just hope it doesn't mess up the club season too much.
My big wish for international football is that I have the vaccine by October and I'm able to go to the Faroe Islands because Scotland's playing a World Cup qualifier there. Then I can get my trip to the Faroe Islands, see Vikingur, see Scotland. Perfect.
Hey, can we make that an AFTN road trip?
Yeah. You guys up for that?
I'm good for it if it is available.
Can it come out of Steve's salary?
Yeah, definitely. Sure. We'll do a fundraising Kickstarter thing. Instead of like away from the numbers, it'll be away to the Faroes or something. We'll start to call the website. But that is it for our look back at 2020 and our slight look ahead to 2021. I just want to round the show off though with this week's wavelength. Now, people always think I just play punk songs in this section, so I thought I'll start the year off with something a little bit different. We're going to get some reggae. You ready for that? Sure you are. This is a song from 1972 by the Clement Bushy Set. This is Football Reggae.
Football is the game today. Football is the best game, I would say. Football is the game today. The game to play. What a season full of glow. 'Twas so exciting indeed. Derby are the champions now. They just outpointed Leeds. Wembley is the stadium where finals are lost and won. From seasons gone to seasons to come. So cheer them and enjoy them and sing. La 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 la. La 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 la. United Celtic. La 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 la. Millwall Orange. La 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 So let us sing together now. Join in and sing this song. So let us sing together now. 'Cause football is the best game today. Watching teams like Tottenham, they are such a fine bunch of players to see. But being next door to Arsenal, they would have to be. Chelsea are so glamorous, they dazzle our eyes with a ball. Stoke and Wolves and Liverpool make their fans feel tall. West Ham are another team.
The Clement Bushy set there from 1972, football reggae. Thought for this month I'll steer clear of the punk. I'll play some non-punk songs and some different sounding songs. I've got a rockabilly song coming up in next week's Wavelength. Some people may say it's because I'm running out of songs to play in Wavelength. No, I will not have that as the reason that we're doing this. Although this could be the year that we do run out of Wavelength songs. But I've got lots of songs about other sports I can then play as well. We'll see what we do. But just before we go, just let everyone know where they can find you online, starting with our favourite Steve Pander.
My name is Steve, and you can find me on Twitter at WhitecapsBeat, and I do have a marketing degree due to your CPL.
I did not know that. I did marketing as part of my communication studies diploma.
Yeah, I did in BCIT. Mine.
I did it at Fife College of Technology. Anyway, Zach, where can people find you online?
You can find me occasionally tweeting or retweeting Michael's tweets at ZacharyAM on Twitter.
I'm Michael McCall. Find me on Twitter at AFTN Canada. Read our stuff away from the numbers, aftn.ca. Don't know how busy we'll be in January. I might have a little bit of a break just to kind of wind down. But you can always check out our East Fife and Scottish football podcast as well. Glory Days of Gold. You can find that on AFTN's Scottish website, aftn.co.uk. We're going to be having an interview coming up in that with former Whitecaps assistant coach Gordon Forrest soon, who's currently the assistant manager at Hearts in the Scottish Championship. Anyway, that is it for this show. Happy New Year to everyone. Hope you had a really good festive period. Hope 2021 is good for you all. Have a happy, safe and healthy new year. We'll be back soon talking more football. Until then, thanks for listening. Take care and mon 2021.
Going to your first match is an experience you never forget. The atmosphere of what's going on around the pitch looks beautiful, and you always look and go, wow, I'd love to play here one day. If you get the bug, it's going to stay with you for life.